And welcome back, and we're moving into our first conversation this morning as we find out more about the Northeastern Biological Corridor. And here with us to tell us more about the management and some of the things that have been taking place and will take place are representatives of the Corozal Sustainable Future Initiative. We have with us on set Rebecca Teul, who is the Program Manager for Outreach and Publicity. In the middle, we have Lester Delgado, who is the Field Operations Manager. And on the end, we have Wendy Casasola, who's the Program Manager for Hospitality and Tourism. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us all the way from Corozal.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Now, we were talking during the break, and we were reflecting on the previous conversation when the biological corridor was established. And that was just earlier this year. So things have, the ball has started rolling very quickly. And I want to step back and just kind of look at that. Why was this corridor established in the first place? What was the need that we were seeing?
Well, I believe that the need was the extent of development that was taking place before. So we have existing reserves. We have Shipstern Conservation and Management Area. We have Freshwater Creek Forest Reserve. But if you look at the map, you will see that they are spaced far apart. So because of that, we actually wanted to join them. Interestingly, our monitoring program captured this jaguar in November of what year was it? 20 El Viajero? Last year, yes, in November, and in Chapal area, right? And in the Shipstern area. Then exactly 1 month after that, on December 8th, I think it was, that same jaguar was found in Freshwater Creek in the Orange Walk area. So you can see that he traveled from Corozal all the way to Orange Walk. So that shows us that these animals actually use that area. So because of that, we want to provide them with a safe pathway so that they can travel through the area. So things like that are what caused us to move on this corridor.
There's also an issue with deforestation as well, right?
Right. Yes. The North basically does, the people in the North, the local communities, they do a lot of agricultural activities. And along with that comes deforestation, habitat fragmentation, and all of that really, signal that, okay, there is a need to establish some kind of corridor in order to have movement and connectivity for the wildlife that we protect. So apart from the agricultural, our monitoring program, as Ms. Rebecca has already mentioned, really had a lot to influence in all this process, because we conduct monitoring activities, we have camera stations, so we are constantly, every month we do camera checks, so we're constantly viewing the images and analyzing what type of species the camera captures, but we focused a lot on jaguars. So that particular jaguar, which was our director talked about in the show on February, which we call the Viajero. So he was basically one of the key travelers in this. So it's really a lot of deforestation, the fragmentation, and all of that really pushed us to go forward with this corridor, because it was something going on for several years already, but nothing was really done. Nothing concrete was really done then.
It's also a unique public-private partnership, right? So, because some of the area does have owners, right?
Right. Well, the corridor is composed of different, like how you mentioned, private areas, no, and also government areas. For example, Shipstern is a private area, no, and then on the middle we have the Balam Jungle private land too, and then, well, it was good that the Mennonites also give a bulk of forest also for the establishment of the corridor, and then we have the Freshwater Creek and Honeycamp National Park, which are government lands.
So the Mennonite gave up this?
Yes, they were
returned to government.
Donate or contribute, 2,500 acres of land for the establishment of this corridor too. So that is history, that the Mennonites basically donates or contributes this bulk of land.
What does this signify to you in the work that you do, to have especially the private sector on board to you know, when you don't develop an area, if people are very short-sighted, they think, well, that's a loss of money. I can't put anything there. I can't plant. I can't, you know, log, whatever it is I want to use it for. The short-term vision. What does it signify to you that you have partners who are willing to see the importance of the corridor?
Well, I believe it is a major plus for us. It is a win-win for us and for them as well. But for us, it is a major achievement because it shows us that these people, that they actually understand the significance of what we are doing, of what they are contributing to. Because the Mennonites, for example, when we talk to them, they are actually willing to participate with us. I believe we take some alternative things to them, for example, pesticides. They were quick to come on board with that. You know, they wanted to actually be for the environment. So, like I said, it is a significant milestone for us because it shows that they do understand. But that doesn't mean that more outreach is needed. We have a lot in that venue to do as well.
Yeah.
But I think it has to be a major score for one of the primary examples of development and land usage in Belize to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Because no one can say then that because one of the things we're talking about that we can share is, I asked you the question before we came on, was, is it a case where we're letting the grass grow and watching the horse die? But I mean, the Mennonites are surely an example of the balancing between sustainable development and conservation.
Rebecca, you spoke of the need for continuous outreach, which means there's still challenges, perhaps, in being able to get, whether it's the community or others on board in recognizing the need to preserve the area. Tell us about that.
Okay, so you have some of the nearby villagers. You have, you know, the surrounding villages would be Sarteneja, Shonosh, San Esteban, Santa Marta. We have some people, you know, they still do illegal hunting, illegal logging, even some of the Mennonite communities. But like I said, the Mennonites show us that it's just a matter of reaching out to them, educating them on these topics so that they, you know, they become more aware. They don't think we're just there fencing off all the animals and the trees from them. So it's for us to let them understand that it's for their benefit, you know, for the future, and that's why we are there.
I think it's important to highlight, you know, when people hear about the word corridor, they think, okay, they're locking off this, you know, forest, and then we won't be able to access it to get benefits out of it. But in reality, that's why one of the main reasons why we are here, because we want people to know that, you know, the corridor will provide benefits not only for the environment, the wildlife, but also the local communities. And that's why we are in process of, you know, of going out to the different communities, understanding what are their needs, because a lot of them depend on the forest for their livelihoods. So we know that, and of course we will try to maybe establish sustainable income generating activities for them. But that is, you know, a process that will take time because it involves going out and interacting with them and actually understanding what is their perspective about all of this.
Now, what do you tell them in terms of how they benefit? If they can't hunt and get what is essentially free meat to eat?
Yeah, so if the map that showed earlier, you saw this large stretch of land. So that right there is the corridor. So what we want the people to understand is that, one, the environmental biological benefits that it produces, and environmental benefits is that, so it offers animals this large area so that they can traverse through safely, so that we don't create fragmented patches of forest for them. So they are free to roam about it, to find mates, to find food. What we would like for them to understand is that the more area they have, you know, jaguars, they need large territories. And then if you seclude them, if they are separated from each other, then it would limit the gene pool. It would make them more vulnerable to diseases. It can affect their population because, you know, they won't be able to mate or to find other foods and those things. And another thing.
Maybe, well, I could add, no,
Sure.
on what you have been saying. the benefits, I guess that the benefits that the people is getting is, you know, that we are saving this last bulk of forest that we have in the northern part of Belize, in the northeastern part of Belize, and also that, you know, this will be for the future generations too. This is not only going to be for me, for us here right now, but for the future generations, and it will provide more to the future, different incomes from different activities when it comes to tourism.
Yeah, and to add to that, it benefits the farmers. You know, there are a lot of farmers nearby. So this large patch of forest will then, you know, it provides for rain formation, flood mitigation, so that their crops will it won't be flooded out. They would constantly have rain for it, you know, through evaporation, transpiration, through the whole water cycle. That's what this corridor will provide to them.
Yeah.
So it benefits them in many different ways, and that's what we want to, you know.
Is
get
there a
across to them.
restoration process ongoing? Because I know that you spoke of having masses of area, a massive area where it's already been cleared.
Sure. We have a restoration process, which is based at Freshwater Creek.
Okay.
Up to now, well, we have planted a total of approximately 18,000 mahogany trees, no?
Wow.
Yeah, so we have been working on that. We use different techniques like the line planting, gap planting, nest planting techniques, no? Different techniques for planting mahogany and like that.
Which just means how they're lined up, right?
You're right,
Okay.
from yeah, east to west and like
Okay.
that. Yeah. So yes,
18,000.
activities are happening
And what
when it comes to
happens?
reforestation.
Yeah, remember they actually go out there and collect the seeds. Then we have a nursery at Freshwater Creek. They plant them, they grow them. You know, they really take care of them. They even measure the growth rate of these trees.
Right.
And then when they reach reforestation size, that's when, as he mentioned, they take the trees out there and they plant them. They either plant them in existing gaps, you know, where deforestation has happened before, or where, I don't know, natural causes has opened up the forest, so they plant them in there, or our guys even go and create their own
Like
gaps
filling
out there.
filling the patches.
And it's not only mahogany that we focus on. We've also tried to grow the other timber species as
Right.
well.
I'm curious. You know, I think you're talking about species fragmentation, but for the layperson, if you put a house in the middle of where these animals traverse, don't they just simply go around? What's the interference of persons and development? Because, for example, if you have a cane field, wouldn't you assume that because there's not necessarily a human, because these are vast tracts of land, if you look at it by air, it's vast tracts of land, that the jaguars in particular wouldn't be affected by it? Because it's not like you have streets and cities.
Yeah, that's really a very good point. You know, small development will not have a significant impact on the wildlife, but when it comes to huge development, then yes. And that's when the issue with human and wildlife come into play. Because for so long we have been hearing about issues, particularly with jaguars and humans, you know, because of most of the time because of our anthropogenic activities.
Anthropogenic?
Anthropogenic.
What does that mean?
Human-related activities, like, you know, activities that we do, like you know, deforestation, cutting down of forests and all of that. So our activities really pose significant threat to their territory because we are reducing their territory. Imagine if it's
We're
just like
moving into their yard.
yes,
Right.
Yeah.
and that means less, you know, food, less space for them, less mates, and all of that, which eventually leads to genetic a loss in genetic diversity, and can even lead to species extinction. So all of that has eventually have an effect. Maybe it won't be an immediate impact or effect, but eventually it becomes large.
Wendy, I'm very curious about the concept of hospitality and tourism
Yeah.
in a biological corridor. How does this work?
All right, so in like any other thing, there are high levels of investments that need to take place, especially with all the enforcement activities that need to be conducted now in this large area. All the equipment that we need, the camera traps, which are expensive and all of that. So we need to find ways in how we can actually generate some kind of income our revenues without affecting the environment. So what we do at our organization is basically two main types of tourism. We do what we call nature or ecotourism and also cultural tourism. So with nature, it's basically, you know, everything related to the flora and fauna of the region, educating people about that. And cultural, we actually take our guests to the communities to actually understand their traditions, their livelihoods, their culture in a whole. People in particular are very interested in the Mennonite Tour because, you know, most of the people that visit us, conservation and the importance of, you know, sustainable development and all of that. So that tour in particular really gives guests a nice experience and lets them go into the community because actually they go on the buggy along the community with the Mennonites and interact with them and all of that.
I'm even more intrigued by this particular statement for this reason. Some of the Mennonite communities are very traditional and very closed off to outsiders. They like preserving what they have. How have you been able to get, because you have Shipstern in that area, I'd assume that's where you're doing your Mennonite tour. How do you get the community to buy in and have others almost like observe? They're like in a fish tank, you know, observe their way of life. It's very fascinating. But how did you get them to agree, and what is that like for both the tourists and for the community there?
I must admit, it hasn't been easy. It has taken a period of time. But what we do as an organization is, first of all, respect whatever rules or whatever restrictions or anything that they have in their community. First of all, one thing that we need to do when we work with Mennonite communities is that you cannot just go to any Mennonite and talk to them. You have to go to the leaders.
Yes.
You have to convince the leaders, and from there it goes on.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main things that we respect. Lester has done a lot of community engagement, and he has a good relationship with the Mennonites. Because even for us ladies, it's a bit difficult. So they don't really open up to us as much. But eventually, I'm seeing like a transition in their culture because slowly and slowly we get to interact with them. We get to you know, to have talks with them and all of that. So we can actually see how they are, you know, open up to whatever we bring to the table or whatever discussions we want to conduct with them.
Tell us, Lester. How'd you do?
Yeah, well, I guess it's you know, more that friendship, and then from friendship they start trusting you. Because when I was a kid, I used to go to the Mennonite community too and play with the Mennonites and like that, no? And that is how I get to know a lot of people there in the community, the Mennonite communities, no? And now that I am working with this organization, I go back there and, you know, discuss and talk to them about the work we do, why we do it, why is it important, and like that. So I guess it's, you know, that they have this trust with not only us, but with the organization, you know.
It seems to me that this particular Mennonite community, which has really been a great partner in what you're doing here in the Northeastern Biological Corridor, really buys into the idea that we are seeing a problem in deforestation or challenges in the natural ecosystem that exists. What has been their perspective in this? You know, they typically, you know, live off the land, live very simple. You know, they're not bringing in high rises or things that we consider major developments. But what was their experience that leads them to be so accessible to participate in this? Is it seeing less animals, challenges with plants, with crops?
Both. We, for instance, we have another work that we do with another member of the community. He actually approached us to tell us about, you know, about the problems that he was facing and loss of in his case was cattle, you know. So the Jaguars, he assumed, he didn't really know what it was, but he was saying that it was a jaguar that was frequently visiting his farm and killing all his cattle and all of that. So he actually approached us and opened up we opened up this relationship with them, and what we did is install cameras in his farm to actually monitor to see if it was actually a jaguar or what was the
culprit.
Yes, exactly. So so that actually, you know, the community is small, so the word is spread. So that was one of their concerns. Another thing as well.
But you have to
Was
tell
it
us,
a
was
jaguar?
Jaguar?
I know.
Yes, it was a jaguar.
All right, coyote.
Indeed, it was a jaguar. So, and even that was amazing for them, you know, to take them and to show them the pictures that we captured. It was something different for them as well. So, apart from that, I mean, they do a lot of agriculture, so they know the importance. They need, you know, the forest in order to have that cloud formation, you know, the rainfall, all of that. They understand, and they know that they need that forest in order for that to happen. So all of those are basically things that contributed in all of this.
Let's expand to address, which is what I think is just the most important question here. Why should Belizeans across the country care about another reserved area for more forest, easy access for jaguars? Why is this an important development in our country?
Well, it's important because, like I said, it affects, it does affect the entire country on a whole, because, you know, if you look over right across the border, you will see that it's really developed there, and then if you look at the Belize side, you'll see the large areas of green forest. So yes, that is important, so that people will always have game meat. You know, there are those people who depend a lot on game meat. So this serves like this reserve serves as this reproduction haven for them. So they can eventually move over to where the people are and where it is actually legal to hunt. It creates a spillover effect for tourism, for them to generate jobs from, because like Ms. Wendy mentioned, we are not the only ones who benefit from tourism. We allow the communities to benefit, and we would like to extend that, because the corridor now stretches over a large area, and well, we would like to get as many people involved as possible. And the production.
I think it should be something that all Belizeans should be proud of, because the way we look at it is, okay, most of the time NGOs or government or departments, etc., protect certain patches of forest, you know, protected areas. But in this case, we're actually moving from site management to what is now landscape management, right? So it's something really different. It's like, okay, you will have to use different management strategies. It's like changing the conservation work a little. So it's a challenge, of course, but it's, you know, setting the stage for something else. And at the end, you know, develop that pride and hopefully push others to move towards the same initiative.
Right, and and I also think that, you know, we Belizeans should be proud, you know, because this entire landscape, like how Ms. Wendy mentioned, is the forest that filters water also when it rains, that goes into the sea. So it forms part not only, you know, inland to take care of all of our resources inland, but even also on our reef. Because all this water, when it rains into the sea, and then it goes and it affects our coral reef. So it is very important for us to conserve this, because it's the last bulk of forest. And then it gives us good water for drinking too. And also, like how we have mentioned, hunting, the animal, well, the wildlife or whatsoever, you know, that gets out from the protected area. If anyone has a license for hunting, he could easily, you know, hunt that deer or whatsoever and take home something to the table.
Yeah, that's a huge point, and I appreciate in terms of the water value. I wanted to question as to whether or not there were other initiatives apart from the tourist initiatives that are coming and the scientific or managerial opportunities. Are there any initiatives that, because we have the corridor now, we have the potential to probably explore apart from those two?
Yes, definitely. Apart from the tourism and all of that that you mentioned, there can, and Lester was already touching on that, basically do some type of exploitation. But in order for that to happen, we need to know what really is out there, and that's why our monitoring is very important.
When you say exploitation, what do you mean?
Like, allow certain activities, certain local communities to maybe like with
To
the
use
hunt-
some parts of
yes.
the land.
But
Yeah.
it has to be in a sustainable manner. It's something
Like,
similar
yeah,
to
Share does that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially like the
agroforestry, all of
Yeah.
that they do there as well.
and so on.
Yeah. So, and I think that's always a very interesting balance where it's preserved, but still you can still use it under certain conditions.
Right.
That it's in a sustainable manner.
Yeah,
Right.
because the idea is not only to have this big bulk of forest protected or conserved, but no, even also to involve communities and people and give them an opportunity, so that they could make an income too.
Yeah.
To create different programs for the people, and like that.
Fascinating. So we are gearing up for a Shipstern Day. Tell us about that.
So it will be our second annual Shipstern Day event. We have pictures about it actually. So the idea of Shipstern Day is to use it as a major education outlet, especially for the surrounding communities. We invite the schools there so that they can see the work that we do. They can see our butterfly garden, they can see our botanical trails, and we also have other stations for them out there. So this one was, so last year they had to make a model to win a prize, but this year we will have a nationwide logo competition. So for the logo competition, there is a criteria. The logo can be anywhere from 3 to 5 feet in length and width, and it can be colored, painted, sketched, or designed electronically. They need to as soon as they design it, they take a picture of it, email it to us, and the first 5 schools who submit a picture of their logo, they are invited to celebrate Shipstern Day with us. Transportation will be provided for the first 2 schools who submit.
Okay.
And then
Even if they're from Toledo.
throughout. So yeah, we are hoping to get as much submissions as possible.
The logo is for Shipstern Day.
No, yes.
Okay.
So it is about the corridor. It is
Oh, it's
to
about the
design
corridor.
a logo for the corridor, for the
Okay.
Northeastern Biological Corridor. So they must have, the name Northeastern Biological Corridor on the logo, our contact information, and we encourage participants to be as creative as possible.
Yeah.
Our rubric is quite simple. They just have to be. We are looking for creativity, originality, reflectiveness of the corridor, and presentation and justification of their logo. So.
And it's to primary schoolers only?
Oh, so it's the high school and 6th form students.
Oh, high school and
yeah.
sixth form. Okay.
What?
And when is Shipstern Day? Sorry.
Sorry, it's on November 29th.
Okay,
it's a
the end of
Thursday.
next month.
Yeah,
Okay.
it will be from 10 a.m. to around 3 p.m. in the afternoon. We will be inviting other NGOs to have booths on display. So that's why it will be like a major a day of environmental awareness in the north. Because there's always events in Belmopan or in the Cayo district that target schools around those areas. So we want to have something like that in rural Corozal.
Right.
So it will be at Shipstern.
How long does it take to get there
Yeah.
from Corozal, Orange Walk?
So from Orange
Or
Walk to
any other?
Shipstern, it's about a 2-hour drive. So a 2-hour drive of adventure, So from Corozal to Shipstern, it's about an hour and a half. So,
Okay.
Right.
yeah.
And you cross 2 ferries.
From Corozal.
From Corozal.
Beautiful
experience.
ferries. That's a
Yes.
wonderful
Yeah, from Corozal
experience.
to
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I wanted. You had your first last year.
Yes.
And there were things last year that you probably were there thinking, man, I wish more people would see. Could you
Yes,
talk to us
that
about
was
some
the
of the
thing.
attractions last year that are probably going to be repeated this year that you think people are really going to enjoy, and things that you probably added on that makes the experience that much worth that 2-hour
Okay,
drive?
so what I forgot to mention is that each school who submit a logo, each person, their class should come up with an environmental presentation. So that was the highlight of last year as well. The primary schools, they were really, really creative. They design songs, and then the lyrics, they just change the lyrics to reflect something about an environmental topic. So this year it can be any environmental topic as long as you have one. It can be a poem, a skit, a song, anything. So that one was really amazing. So we decided to keep it for this year. We wished, since it was the first Shipstern Day last year, we only had about 100 students, teachers in attendance. It was a small crowd. So this year we decided to boost up that target mark.
So what is the deadline for the local competition?
So the deadline is November 21st.
Okay.
I think it's November 20th. It's the last Friday before. Sorry, it's the last Friday before the actual Shipstern Day.
Okay, and Shipstern Day is on the 29th.
29th.
And it's open to the general public. So if you're in the area,
Yeah, you can stop by. Sure.
Definitely.
But
how do people find out more about the organization and the work that you're doing?
okay, so they can find out more by going on our website, www.csfibz.com. If they want to book a tour, they can visit www.visitshipstern.com. On our Facebook page, sorry, Shipstern Conservation and Management Area.
Everything's
We're
on
on
Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram.
That's where people search for us anyway, so.
Okay.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and telling us about the work that you've been doing. I'm fascinated at how quickly all of this has come into play. But most importantly, it seems that it's a very interesting case of how the government can work along with private sector. You can work on conservation, but still allow for sustainable development and still include the kids and culture and tourism. So there's a lot happening, and we really appreciate you coming in and telling us all about it. Right?
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about trauma and the brain and sexual abuse. So stay tuned.